Good evening. As a preliminary matter, this is John Regan, Chair of the Auburn Planning Board. Permit me to confirm that all members are present. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Duarkesh Nallin.
Present.
Ron Brooks.
Present.
Jason S. Sarifi.
Present.
Glenn Feldman.
Present.
Town officials and employees participating, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Town Planner Dr. Adam Menard.
Yeah.
Staff Assistant Danielle Chamberlain Roberts.
Present.
Good evening. This open meeting of the Town of Auburn Planning Board of Tuesday, August 13, 2024, now called to order at 7 p.m. This meeting is being conducted as a hybrid format under Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022. For this meeting, the Planning Board is convening in person and by remote access. The remote access information has been posted on the town's website identifying how the public may join. Please note that the meeting is being recorded by the Auburn Cable Television. Is there anyone here in the audience tonight recording tonight's meeting? Being none, accordingly, those members of the Planning Board, employees, and members of the public who participate remotely, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and please take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Please rise and join us with a salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All supporting materials that have been provided to the members of this body are available on the town's website. I would like to remind the audience, applicants, town administration, and each of the planning board members to please refrain from asking questions in regards to all matters discussed this evening without first being granted my consent. Finally, each vote taken here in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. First on the list tonight, 7 p.m., is applicant Elite Real Estate Holdings Company requesting a site plan approval under Section 3.2.2.3 of the Auburn zoning bylaw for a 4-unit apartment building at 7 Duncan Avenue, Auburn, Mass. 01501, Map 4, Parcel 153. Is there anyone here representing Elite Real Estate?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My name is Donald O'Neill. I'm a lawyer in Worcester, here this evening on behalf of Elite Holding Company, LLC. Also with me this evening is James Tetro from Expedited Engineering. This is an application which we filed for site plan approval. It's in connection with a parallel filing that we intend to do with the Zoning Board of Appeals.
It's with a parallel what? I'm having a hard time understanding you with the mask on. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. Well, we're going to be filing with the Zoning Board of Appeals as well to increase the number of units from 3 to 4.
Increase the number of what?
Units.
Units? Yeah. To how many?
From 3 to 4, which will trigger the need for a site plan review by your board. So that's why we're here. Mr. Tetro can walk you through the plan. It is a site plan, so I would expect that most of your issues would be related to the site and the design and the layout, so I'll let him proceed.
Okay.
As Mr. O'Neill said, my name is James Tetro. I work for Expedited Engineering here representing Elite Real Estate Holdings. I'm going to try and pick a side here. I apologize to anybody who I'm not making this especially visible to. I'm not intending to freeze anyone out, neither board nor audience. The site is 7 Duncan Street on the north side of Duncan Street, about 2/3 of the way from Hurd to Carroll. It's a 0.82 acre, basically rectangular parcel, and there has long time been a structure there and a driveway, crescent driveway serving it. What we're proposing to do is for this structure to serve as for four multifamily units. We propose 8 parking spaces in front, and in order to make the overall drainage work on this site, we're going to infiltrate roof runoff in a structure back here. We're also going to take this gravel path here, and we're going to put grass on that. We're also going to put some stone and some channels to capture runoff. And we're going to basically capture runoff, which went all across the property line to the abutter, and send it more towards the back which is where the drainage in this area actually ends up going, is to the back of this property and the next one, and then going further north. Let's see, I would just add that the existing structure has utility connections already. We're not changing any of them. We're not changing the sanitary sewer connection, we're not changing the electric connection, we're not changing any of those. The only, I would say, infrastructure change being proposed here is that of capturing the roof runoff from this building and sending it to that structure in the back. And that will enable us to, even though we're creating a little extra impervious surface in the driveway to satisfy the space needs of 8 spaces and the aisle behind them, that'll enable us to have the drainage work towards Duncan Street. I'll just quickly add that there were three recipients of drainage from this property. There was a really unchanged sort of triangle of land that goes to the abutter in the back, Cusson and Del Mar, if I say that right. There's land which drains to the abutter, again, I hope I say this right, Graveline. And there's land which drains to Duncan Street. And we submitted a drainage report, which was reviewed by the outside peer reviewer, Graves Engineering. I believe that's all set at this point. I don't think we've heard back, Adam, you could correct me if I'm wrong, since the plans we submitted about a week ago. And has another response come back from Graves? Okay. So anyways, I will just leave it at that. Essentially, we are not proposing to change the structure. We're proposing that it be used for 4 multifamily dwellings. That requires 8 parking spaces. We're showing those in front. We corrected the mistake before where I had drawn them as like 17.1 feet or something accidentally. They're all 18 and a half feet. They're all 9 feet wide. They all have a 24-foot wide aisle behind them. And again, as I say, I think we've made both required drainage improvements and another drainage. We're actually, I would say the applicant is actually being very considerate to the abutter to the east, Graveline, by what we're proposing to do with the gravel path, grassing this over and collecting runoff, and largely keeping it away from their house and their immediate yard. So I'll try and take any questions that you have, and I'm sure there's stuff I should have thought to say, and it'll come up here.
Is there anyone from the audience that would like to ask this gentleman questions? Please step to the podium and state your name and address, please.
Hello and thank you. My name is Paul Noyes. I am the landowner at 2 Duncan Ave and 4 Duncan Ave, which is directly across the street from 7 Duncan Ave. I have a question as far as for this proposed plan. Looks like the road is going to be widened to 40 feet wide. Is that correct?
Through the chair, no. The right-of-way is 40 feet wide. There's a distinction has to be drawn between the traveled way, which is the actual pavement people drive on, and the right-of-way. And the right-of-way is 40 feet wide. We're not proposing to change the traveled way or the right-of-way width.
Yeah, if you could show the gentleman the dotted lines, the long line and the dotted line on both sides of the street, that's the edge of the existing right-of-way, and the dotted lines in the middle are the paved surface.
Right, where I'm putting the edge of the scale is the edge of the right-of-way, which is what the town actually owns, the street that they own. In this particular case, usually the traveled way, the pavement you drive on, is roughly centered. In this case, it's an older road. It's off-center. The traveled way is almost along the edge. The blue line here is the edge of the property of 7 Duncan Street. The traveled way is significantly off-center towards the other side. So you've probably been mowing quite a bit of grass that's actually town land over the years.
Well, thank you for that clarification. I also have a question. It looks like in part of your plans that you plan on putting a sign in my front yard that says exit only, do not enter. Can you explain the need for that sign, please? And I can show you on your plan that I printed out.
That's, the mistake is that the label, there's a label that, because of space needs and other things that are on the plan, a label that shows roughly over here, which has a leader arrow that leads over to where the actual sign is proposed. It's not, the sign's not proposed there, it's just the label. Because we had so much going on in this area, we couldn't put that, that label saying,
What is the need for the sign? Are you bringing the driveway one way?
we actually changed that. That was in the initial plan. We were trying to deal with the space crunch by proposing a one-way driveway. We actually proposed now a 24-foot wide driveway, which would officially allow two-way traffic. So it's not actually, that sign's not actually.
Okay, thank you. It also looks like in your plans that you plan on putting up a guardrail. Can you explain where the guardrail is meant to be placed?
Sure. And sure, Mr. Chairman, off the side of the parking over here is where we propose a guardrail. It's standard practice if you have a greater than 3-to-1 slope that you should have a guardrail in place. And so by having a parking space here so that nobody has any mishap, we're proposing a guardrail off the side of it.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd also like to ask, what type of housing is this proposed to be? Is it affordable housing? Is it 40B? Or is it just rental units?
This is being filed simply as market rate rental units.
Okay, thank you. It looks like that is all of my questions at this time. I may wish to ask further questions as this meeting progresses. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone else in the audience want to, please come up and state your name and your address, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I don't necessarily have a question. It may result in some questions, but I have a statement I'd like to read.
Sure.
Good evening, my name is Mark Gravlin. My wife, Holly Gravlin, and I reside at 9 Duncan Street, which is that one right there, which is adjacent to the east of 7 Duncan Street, erroneously introduced in the azimuth report as being to the west, but we are in fact to the east. We have been living there for almost 28 years. As you are aware, the property next door changed hands almost 3 years ago when the new owners immediately began renovations to the structure, but also spent a great deal of time excavating the entire property. The topography of 7 Duncan Street was significantly altered. My wife and I did not think much of it about it at the time because the property boundaries were being respected. However, several rainstorms took place between July 17th, 2021 and September 9th, 2021, which caused a great deal of water to come along our property, along with large volumes of mud and silt. I do have videos and photos of that available on my wife's phone. Just as a note, this mud and silt made its way to a nearby wetland, which is shown to the east of, it's actually on my property, but the wetland exists here. So the water flowed and silt flowed on our property into the wetland. We had not seen anything like this in the prior 25 years and attributed the water and silt from those storms and every storm thereafter to landscape changes next door. My wife and I were both very upset and concerned about our property being ruined and distressed about every rainstorm and spring thaw thereafter. Ultimately, my wife contacted Natalie Dermuk, who was listed as the owner of the property at the time, where we pointed out the issue and the fact that they were excavating and no silt fence ever existed, after which some attention was made next door. We assume that this was their effort. However, we are not confident that care will be taken to adhere to the requirements necessary for protecting my property during the construction of this infiltration trench that is being proposed here. Finally, I would also like to point out the Azimuth report makes no mention of a water well that exists on 9 Duncan Street, my property, since we live there, and it's not clear that the infiltration trench and catch basins indicated, particularly at the northeast corner of the property here, will comply with Title V requirements. I ask the planning board to take these facts into consideration during your review. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up, Mr. Cussin.
My name is Tom Cussin. I live at 36 Carroll Street in Auburn. I've lived there for almost 74 years. There or across the street. I currently live there with my wife, Michelle, and my daughter, Dylan. Dylan attends public school in Auburn. The backyard of 7 Duncan Street abuts my backyard.
Tom, are you going to read the letter you sent?
If I could.
Good, we've all read it, so I know what
You've all read it, you know what it says. I've added a little bit to it, and what I'd like to do is
Okay.
just read some portions of it.
That's fine. I just want to let you know that all your points were very poignant and truthful.
All right, I'll get right to the point then. I'll start out with, over the years, I've noted that the construction of the original building, which was a single-family home, somewhere along the way, it became a 3-family home. I'm not sure if that was legal or not legal. I watched with optimism as the new owner took over and started to do what I thought was going to be repairs to it. They wound up spreading a lot of dirt around, destroying a 100-year-old stone wall that served as a property line between my property and their property. Never did anything with the swimming pool, which is still on the property, I believe, and I'm not sure if it's fenced in or not. I actually got chased off the property one time by police for trying to find out. So, first comment is the error on the notice. There's a typo. The notice cites section 3.2.3.3. I believe it should read 3.2.23. It's a minor thing. We all make typos. We all make mistakes. But when it's a legal document, it should be correct. It begs the question of if there's something else wrong with the document or not. Compatible building development. Can the building be considered compatible with adjoining development? The building looks like a commercial building. There's no other way to describe it. It's got huge windows all around it. It looks very much like an office building. People that come to our house ask when the office building went up and, whether it's going to be a law firm or something else like that. So it's kind of out of character with the neighborhood. Parking, I did not realize where the parking was going to be. I appreciate that you've pointed that out. It does beg the question of where guests would park, where deliveries would be made. If there'd be more than, there's only 2 cars per apartment, you have a child that turns 16, gets their car, where they're going to park, this type of thing. There's not a lot of room on Duncan Street. And this morning I was told they were widening it. I didn't think they were, but now I understand that part of it. Trash management, that's important to us. There's a lot of wild animals in the area. They like to get into the trash. Where the trash is being kept, how it's going to be managed for 4 apartments, that's not part of the plan. I don't know what that would look like, but I would certainly hope that something would be done in that area. If parking is required in the back, I would be concerned about noise, the comings and goings, how it's lit, that type of thing. My bedrooms are in my backyard, and so we'd be impacted directly by that. concerned about an absentee landlord and how the property will be maintained. We put up with a lot with this property over the years. A lot of people coming and going. We had drugs, alcohol, lots of different problems. Final thing I'd comment would be water supply, which is something I added, didn't have in my original. The water lines on Carroll Street were actually installed by my father back in the 1950s. So they're that old, and they're starting to show that age. There's a lot of times when they've had to be repaired. You can go up and down Carroll Street, and you can see all the places, all the homes that have had that problem. And I'm not sure exactly where the water supply line goes to this property, but any more added strain to the line is just going to exacerbate that problem. That's something I would like to point out. And you already have my comments about the request for...
Is there hydrants on Carroll Street, Tommy? Is there hydrants on Carroll Street?
Yes, there is. There's a hydrant at Lincoln Street. It's probably about halfway.
So I'm wondering if the line from Lincoln Street up toward your end of the street is only a 2-inch line like it is on Gates Court, or it's a 6-inch line?
It's a 2-inch line, and I'm at the end of the street, so it's a dead 2-inch line. It doesn't even circulate through. So I get some pretty nasty water, but
They didn't put a blow-off up the flushing hydrant up there? They did on Gates Court a couple of weeks ago.
did they?
Yeah,
Well,
because somebody complained, so they went up and put one in.
I've been complaining for years, and nobody's done it. All right, and that's all I have right now.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that has a comment or question? Please step to the podium, state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Jean-Paul Laramie. I live at 8 Buttonwood Lane, which is the property that is just slightly down the hill, and you can see in that opening of the trees right there. One of the problems that we've had over the years is drainage coming off of that property, especially in the wintertime. Water will come down from melt on that driveway, on that edge of the property, and will come down across the street and run down the opposite side of the road. It did lead to really bad icing conditions at one point. There was a motor vehicle accident that was caused by that, and nearly caused a cruiser to crash that was responding. What I wanted to know, and I didn't see anything about it on here, is there any sort of redress for the drainage on the street itself that's going to come along with this project?
Not that I'm aware of, but I do have a question. Did this water flow start before the construction or after the construction?
No, it's long before. It's always been there.
It's always been there.
Yeah.
So as far as the drainage on the street, you'd have to approach the DPW.
Fair enough.
We don't have jurisdiction over that, unfortunately.
Okay. No, I just didn't know if it was within the scope of the project. That's why I asked. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience have any questions or comments for this gentleman? Podium, please state your name and address, please.
Hi. Thanks for having us. I'm Monica Hamilton McCarthy. I'm at 24 Carroll Street. And I just jotted down some notes from an impromptu meeting with some neighbors earlier. Just a question,
I
though.
know, I saw you.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's why I didn't stop. I was in a red pickup. I said, I'm not getting into that.
Oh, okay, all right, we saw you go by. Just to reiterate the question, though, you have no intention of widening the street?
Correct. We're not intending to do anything within the right-of-way.
Okay. Then I will modify some of this, but I just wanted to enter some objections that we had discussed. We, the residents of the neighborhood surrounding the parcel in question, object to and oppose a development of a multi-unit dwelling apartment complex in our quiet residential neighborhood because we are gravely concerned about the continued noise and disturbance of work on such a building which has already been under construction for more than 2 years. A 4-unit development would not only add to the daily traffic of at least 8 resident cars, but also the additional traffic of visitors and deliveries to the varied occupants daily. Drivers, including heavy trucks well over the posted weight limit, already use Duncan Street as a cut-through to James Street and pose significant safety risks to the young children who play and ride bikes on the street, not to mention the residents who walk their dogs in the neighborhood. A development of this kind would forever, I believe, change the character of our neighborhood and cause undue harmful impact to our properties, and also possibly the environment surrounding them. I'm very concerned about any trees being taken down anywhere in order to facilitate this, because the wetlands were also mentioned, but I know, at least in our own property with our own trees, we've heard no fewer than 36 species of songbirds and large raptor species, including coopers and red-tailed hawks, great horned owls, and barred owls, nest in the trees and visit our yards and help control the rodents, the problem rodents in the neighborhood. So we respectfully request that you deny this project as proposed, and that this property will remain what it was intended and originally built, as a single family dwelling in character with the rest of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or comments for this gentleman? Go ahead, back up. Absolutely. Just restate your name and address, please. What's that? Yeah, Gina.
My name is Paul Noyes. I'm the owner of 2 Duncan Ave and 4 Duncan Ave, directly across from the proposed site. I just want to make a comment that earlier you had mentioned that you're not changing anything with the existing structure. However, I want to note that over the last few years, the roof line has changed, the electrical was added, the landscaping has been changed, so there has been significant changes to that dwelling prior to any of what's happening now as far as for permitting and things like that. It was always intended to be a 4-family long before they asked for any permits or what I want to say, permitting. So it seems like they're more asking for forgiveness than permission at this point. So that was my comment. Thank you.
Anyone else? Please, podium, state your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Steve McGrath. I live at 34 Carroll Street, and I just want to voice my concerns, my wife and my concerns also, with a lot of the things that Tom Cusson said. Our property abuts Tom's, as well as this property that's being proposed to be changed. I'm curious what the total occupancy would be of this facility if it were to be built as it's proposed. Do we know that?
I don't specifically know the bedroom size of each unit, so I have to defer.
How many bedrooms per unit?
I have to say, I just said I don't know that, so.
So that not being known, one of our big concerns is the noise there. There's no barrier that reduces the noise. When the people were out there working on there, everything was as if it was in our backyard, and we had to close off the windows, close the doors in the middle of the summer, and that's a concern. We're also not sure how the backyard is going to be used, if there's any specific plans for that. And the pool, at least the way it is now, is just horrific. I have pictures that I took this evening before I came here. It's a disgusting green. It seems to have one of those plastic fences that is not even really up, and it's only on one side of the pool, not on the other side. And the whole backyard is starting to become overgrown. We're concerned about the insects and anything else that could be in the water, as well as, pets or even kids or somebody getting into the pool accidentally. And again, one other thing that Tom mentioned was, how are they going to handle the trash? There's 4 units there. Is there going to be a dumpster in there somewhere? That road, Duncan Street, is very narrow. I've been stuck by that street behind oil trucks and other things like that after dropping my son off at the bus stop and having to wait for them to just finish their business or back down Duncan Street. So there's not a lot of space on that. And again, if there's 8 cars in use, 1 delivery, 1 guest, they're going to have to be on the street. And there barely is enough room for 2 vehicles to go by. So, thank you very much. Those are our
As far as
concerns.
parking on the street, I would petition the DPW to put no parking signs on both sides of the street. That. And I understand the other woman's concern about the overweight trucks, because they go over the street all the time. And it's a 2.5-ton limit.
Right. But that's a lot wider,
Oh, yeah.
a lot wider. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or comments for this gentleman, these 2 gentlemen? Being none, Glenn, do you have any questions or comments?
I do, Mr. Chairman. What kind of heating are you going to be using for the building?
I have to say, I don't know the specifics of what's been worked out. I'm making a note of
Because
different
my
items.
concern is oil and propane trucks going up the street and getting stuck and having problems getting in and out.
I don't know certainly enough to give you an answer, so I'll have to circle back to you.
Thank you.
I made a mistake here, folks. I didn't open the meeting. May I have a motion to open the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second to open the hearing? Second. All those in favor? Glenn?
Aye.
Duarkesh? Ron?
Aye.
Jason? Aye. Myself, John Regan, is a vote. It's been open, but it's really open now. I apologize. Any other questions, Glenn?
Yes. On the lighting for the parking lot, what kind of lighting are you going to use? Is it going to be recessed or on poles?
We may have some wall pack on the building itself, but we're not proposing any separate poles. So spaces are all up front at the building. So we may have wall pack lighting on the building itself, but we're not going to have like a separate pole here or pole here or anything.
Will any of that lighting on the outside of the building affect any of the abutters?
It should not. I mean, just
Heard that before.
as far as the usual standard of will there be light pollution that goes onto another property? No, not from a wall pack light. Will someone be able to see it from some distance? Sure, that's possible.
Anything else, Glenn?
No, sir. Thank you.
Duarkesh?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, for letting me ask questions, and thank you, James, for coming in. Thanks to the community folks for coming in with all the questions. So, one first, I think, observation is, do we have a project narrative? Was that given to us in the package? Because it's always helpful to understand what the project is about, with the brief description. So that's helpful. Second is on the access itself. Is the updated site plan suitable for a fire truck and emergency vehicle?
Yeah, because as a fire truck can actually fairly easily get in and basically make the swim move through the site. Because this is 24-foot wide openings on both ends. And we're not asking anybody to make a hard turn in a large vehicle.
I see.
Anything else, Duarkesh?
I'll come back with more questions. Thank you.
Ron?
Do you have a template for the fire truck? Did you use one, or did you just figure out it might work?
I can submit one, a auto turn analysis if you'd like. That's not a big deal.
That would also have to go to the fire department. Anything else, Ron?
You say you're going before the Board of Appeals?
Yes, that's what the attorney said.
What is that for?
4 apartments.
I don't feel bad.
That's to increase the number of units from 3 to 4. This is an existing 3-family recognized by the town, has been for many years. So issues related to oil deliveries, things of that nature, are not going to be significantly any different than they were when 3 units were there as opposed to 4. The 4th unit is being created by basically using space within the existing footprint of the building.
doesn't seem to work in my mind. Another concern I have is, one of the neighbors spoke about water being directed onto his property and the silt going down beyond his house and into a wetlands that was near his house. I mean, you know, obviously you ought to know in the business that you can't direct water from your property onto that of another, other than what was the natural flow.
Correct, and that's why in our drainage report that we submitted, we identified 3 properties to which water is going in the pre-development condition, which we were asked to look at as being before the applicant took over the property versus what is proposed. And those 3 were, again, like a sort of triangle of area to Cussin and Del Mar, about a quarter of the property or so to Duncan Street, and the rest going to Graveline. And we looked at all 3 of those, again, in the 2, 10, 25, and 100-year storms, and I believe we satisfied the outside peer reviewer that what we're proposing will address it such that none of those 3 parties, the street, the abutter to the north, or the abutter to the east, are going to receive a greater rate of flow afterward than they did before.
Also, Mr. Cussin made a comment about trash being buried all over the site. I was up there a couple of times, I saw trash everywhere down in that little side driveway as you come up Duncan. And I just wanna, my feeling is, it's absolutely not compatible with the neighborhood, that building. But to add another thing.
Anything else, Ron?
For now, that's all.
Okay. Jason?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. First, kind of to the community. Currently, the property is accepted as a 3-family by the town of Auburn. We do not have, as a committee, the power to change that back to a single family. So I don't want to set the community up for disappointment in that. All right. Now, to you, sir. Would you be willing to submit a light pollution study showing the community whether the additional lighting from this unit would affect them?
Sure, we can do that. That's,
And for me personally, what I would like to see is an approved or an additional landscape plan for the backyard. Many of the community members mentioned light, noise pollution, as well as the current state of the backyard. If you were able to show in a landscape drawing additional foliage, trees, maybe using that as a barrier between lands, I think that might help some of the community members feel like they have separation. Some of the possible light pollution could be mitigated, as well as some of the noise pollution.
okay. We'll look into that very seriously. In fact, the single landscape architect I most like to use also has folks that he works with who do the lighting studies. So that would kind of go hand in glove.
Ron?
And you must know that the light has to be 0-foot candles at the property line.
Correct. Yep, we understand that.
Go ahead, Rakesh.
So, James, you talked about the pre-development drainage issues, right? So, when you did the 100-year storm study, you said the new development is not adversely impacting the pre-development,
Correct.
right? So, is there, Adam, is there an opportunity for us to review that if there is a pre-development, existing spillage onto other properties?
Ray says review the drainage, and they have the second set of plans within that. And this project will also need a land disturbance permit from DPW.
Yeah, because they built the wall and everything without a permit.
I see.
So, pre-development condition, can you elaborate on that? Is that,
Sure.
are you considering that as current condition as pre-development, or?
No, what we actually, and this actually came out as a result of we submitted the first plan, and one of the responses came back from, I think it was DPW, Adam, that said to make sure to use that the pre-development condition was before the present applicant had taken over the property. And what we did is we went to the Mass Mapper website, and we looked and found a 2019 photo of the property, and used that as the basis to say, okay, what was different 2019 to now? We used the 2019 as the basis for the pre-development version of the study.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, can I just finish with one more guy, and before I get my turn, I'll have you come up.
I think Mr. Cussin mentioned too that there was a stone wall that was removed. I just wanted to ask him, is that a boundary wall?
Yes, it is.
Because that's against the law to remove the boundary wall.
I can't speak to that. I'm assuming we're talking about the north boundary of the property. I don't know the specifics of what he's talking about.
Just seems like a lot of things were done, and, oh, what do we do now? Put the wall back, or you can't fix it.
One last comment on the
Sure.
pre-development side. So, I think going back on that, so, you talked about the pre-development conditions be 2018, 2019.
19 is what we had a photo of.
So I think if I'm just looking back at some of the comments of the community members, if there was that storm between July and September of 2021, has that been considered in the assessment here?
Well, the thing is, what a drainage report compares is pre-development conditions before anything is done and post-development conditions after everything is stabilized. If you have a condition in the interim where there is more open ground, you get more runoff, but that is not the basis of the comparison. The basis of the comparison is pre-development before anything is done and post-development after everything is stabilized as proposed. You can have a interim condition where you have more open ground than will be the case once everything is done, where you get more runoff.
So in that case, for whatever plans are coming in the future, I would ask that you guys develop a stormwater runoff plan with construction that would satisfy Mr. Cussin or other neighbors in the interim.
Sure, the plan that I have in my hand, I know it's very hard to see because I can barely see it and I'm 2 feet away. We propose an sediment and erosion control barrier at the limit of work all along the east boundary of the property to try and capture any runoff and carrying silt towards the abutter to that side grade line.
I hope it's not just straw wattle, because I hate straw wattle.
No, I actually like the silt fence backed up by either the bale or the wattle. The wattle itself is so low, it's not a great thing.
It never works.
It has some utility, but it's limited.
Sir, you can make him up in... Just a second.
One at a time, please. I see you.
So, I don't have is it Mr. Hallen?
Now, yeah.
My name is Mark Ravlin. I live at 9 Duncan Street. I'm abutting to the east. Mr. Hallen asked one of my questions, so thank you, about pre-development. So being directly to the east, and if you know the property and you know Duncan Street, the whole street, this is a hill here, so Duncan goes up in a hill. I kind of sit in the valley to the east, and again, to the east of that is the wetlands, and the reason for the wetlands is because it's at the bottom of the hill. So my concern is, we talk about pre-development, development during construction, and it's a wonderful thing to be talking about this, but I lived through those storms in 2021 and watching a river of mud during the construction come down into our yard again, down into the wetlands. And I guess my biggest concern is that this corporation or the development or whoever's owning and running this property and running this construction has already exhibited superficial ways of addressing things. And I'm wondering how it's not going to be superficial going forward, that it's going to be monitored, up to code. Yes, this gentleman here is saying he's going to build a nice big silt fence, and they put silt fences on the property now, and I invite the board to go up and look at the property now, which is, as someone mentioned, it's quite a mess. But if you look, they put a silt fence here, here, and over here, and all it is a piece of plastic. So again, it's superficial. So my question to this gentleman and to the board is, who monitors during construction? Who ensures that it's up to code? Who, like this interim flow analysis? It's a big concern for me because, as you can see right there, this is where they're talking, right here, and that's my house. Thank you.
So as far as compliance with all that, that's the building inspector.
Sorry?
The building inspector makes sure that it's all in compliance, as far as proper installation, maintenance, all that stuff.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure I
Give me
know
an
who
help
to
that
call.
ring somebody's
I know
bell.
who to call when it's time to complain. Thank you.
Sir?
My name's Alan Nash, I live at 1 Duncan. My property line shares the property line here. I wasn't under I never knew that it was destroying wetlands and stuff, but my wife and myself, we have pictures of the construction project from start to finish. In the topographic part of this area here, you can see, if you don't mind, where the dirt line used to be and where it is now, and the retaining wall.
Oh, I believe you.
And all the other things that are happening there, and they said they didn't change the facade of the structure, but when they were building it, you could see, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to walk it. I was
That's
going to show
okay.
you the picture if you wanted to see it, sir.
Absolutely.
These are all the pictures during, there was woods all down there, the trees on my property line were all messed up. I had a better picture, but I flashed it over. See the dirt line on the side of the house where it used to be with the old neighbors when they sold the property? They came through and they took all the trees out along the side, all the way down all my neighbor's property, all the woods that was back there, that's all gone. And they took a lot of footage down, and then they put that retaining wall in. And then I was trying to get you back to the facade of the property where it used to look like.
Doesn't look anything like it does now.
No, it doesn't, sir. Here's a picture of it. That's what the house looked like when they were doing the construction. Anybody else want to?
It's a little more
That's
conducive.
how it looks like when they, but they, and they took the sides down, and then they built up, and then they took the second floor down, and then they built up again, and then they started cutting windows.
Is
So
this
I got
after-
huge windows looking over my backyard, so
Is
when I
this-
play in my pool, I look across, and these huge windows are up above my fence line.
Is that after it was already a three-family?
The three-family, this was the house when it was purchased, and then they started renovating. So I don't know.
And then
if
they made it the third family?
Yes, sir, I think.
And now we're looking for a fourth.
Yes, sir. That's all I had at the time. I just wanted to let you know that the area hasn't changed. I didn't realize the wetlands is messed up as what it was.
You should,
Is
you
any
should,
of these pictures you want to see?
you should get those pictures printed and send them to the building inspector, the DPW department, the Conservation Commission. I can't do that for you, but you can do that.
Yes, sir.
And let them know.
Thank you.
This gentleman over here in the blue shirt, I think it's blue.
Oh, the fence, oh, yeah, the fence collapsed. Two, they have in it, the fencing. They didn't have safety fences, so there was a drop right there when they first, before they put the retaining wall. They were afraid my son or another child would fall off the.
Sir?
Hi, my name is Mike Lazonis. I live at 15 Montello Street. My property abuts with Tom. My question is, going to be 4 families, where are the kids going to play? Is there a play yard going to be built in there? Or are they going to be on our property trying to get into our fields? Simple question. Duncan Street is narrow. If there's going to be 4 families, you know there's going to be children. Where are they going to play? In Duncan Street? Now, Tom and I share a pretty big lot because Carroll Street was supposed to make an S-turn and connect with Montello Street. So we have a nice big field wide open for kids to come and start destroying it. So my question is, where are the kids going to play if they live in there? Did you take that into consideration? I don't think so. So now, what are we going to have to do? We're going to have to erect signs, private property, no trespassing, get the police involved? Because we don't want kids into the field, and God forbid, I don't want them playing on Duncan Street and get hit by a car. So where are they going to play? Good question.
That's a good question.
There's quite a backyard there.
Right, but I'll get to it. Anyone else have any questions from the audience for this gentleman? Anybody else on the board? Oh.
Buttonwood. So one of the things that actually came from this property, when there were families living there, they did have children at one point. They were concurrent with my own children's ages at the time, and they got to know each other. But we constantly had a stream of kids from that building coming through, right down off the street here, you go into this yard, cut through onto Buttonwood Lane, and you head right down to the bus stop. Is there any plan in this for access from Duncan Street to Buttonwood for kids going to the bus stops?
For this individual lot, no, there's not.
All right. So my question is this a matter for the town putting in that strip, or is it a matter for the developer?
You'd have to approach the building inspector and the DPW, if I'm not mistaken.
For half the school department too.
And the school department.
department?
Yep, all three.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Come on up again.
Paul Noyes, 2 and 4 Duncan. I just want to note that during the construction that was going on previous, there were trucks delivering lumber, there was trucks delivering dumpsters in order to facilitate the construction. Often, as I just making a comment to your previous comment about fire trucks and stuff entering and exiting the property, when these trucks were making deliveries, they would very often block my driveway, and then when they were exiting that property using the horseshoe that you're referring to, they would have to drive onto the curb and onto the lawn that I'm mowing, even if it is the street, in order to make that turn. So if a fire truck needed to get onto that property, it would, from my experience and my own visual acuity, have trouble making that turn. Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience that has a question or comment? Anybody else on the board? Okay, my first question is, how long have you owned the property?
Explain that again?
How long have you owned the property?
The current ownership, it's to a corporation with the same principles involved. I believe they purchased property about 3 years ago, so a lot of the...
3 years ago?
2 to 3 years ago. I can get you the exact date. But a lot of the, as Mr. Brooks pointed out, there was an awful lot of trash on the property, left there not by my clients, but by the previous owner, and part of the cleanup of the site involved the removal of the trash. So a lot of the, I think, sins that have been laying at the feet of the current owners predate their ownership of the property. It was transferred to the current ownership, I'd say, within the last 2-3 months, but the same people are basically still involved.
So the same owners have owned it for the last 3 years?
3, give or take, could be a little less, could be a little more.
Okay.
And they did receive 3 or 4 building permits from the town of Auburn while this work that we're talking about was going on. So that was all work renovating the existing structure. And they were supervised by the town during that process. There's been no work that's been going on that I know of for probably 7 or 8 months, perhaps even longer.
At least, and it shows. You're lucky these people are nice. Because sitting here as the chairman, I'm ready to go into orbit. When I went up there and saw it today, there are more violations up at that place right now.
Well, they
You are
were told,
non-compliant. Let me
by the
finish.
town to stop.
What's that?
The town told them to stop.
They didn't tell them to stop putting
He
silt
did
fence
tell them
around.
to stop
You
working.
have stockpiles everywhere. The water runs off the stockpile right in
All right,
front of
and
the
they were
building,
told
onto
not
the
to
street.
do any work out there until they...
That's
We are
not
here
work, that's maintenance.
at the direction of the town to get a site plan approval so that this work can
Don't
be
need a
shown on the
site
plan.
plan approval to put straw wattles around stockpiles, to keep the grass down, to keep the fence up around the pool for safety. That's not work. That's maintenance. There's a big difference. And that property is so far in disrepair right now, I can't wait for the building inspector to go in and see how much it's been dilapidated inside. Now, as far as the next property down to the east, I don't know how far it is from your property to the wetlands. Does anybody have that dimension? Because it's not on the plans, and it should be.
I would expect that it's more than 100 feet. And the town is well aware of the situation, and I'm sure if there were any issues related to the Conservation Commission, we would have heard about it. And it's not been addressed to me as any kind of an
Some of
issue.
these people didn't know who to call or where to go. Now they do, because they came to the meeting.
Okay, well, we'll see. We can come back and we can look at that if we need to.
So when you buy a property and it's in disrepair and there's garbage, that's not our problem, that's not their problem, it's nobody's problem here. You buy all of the deficits on that property, whether you have to go back in and clean the silt out of the wetlands on this man's property, that's up to the Conservation Commission. If you have to go in and do different things because they made errors, like build the retaining wall without a fence on top, without a permit, no land disturbance permit, I mean, those are in the letter from the town that you have to get. And I wasn't here on the board in 2001, but I would love to know who gave you the permit to change the facade of the building from what it was to make it look like an office building. It wasn't great looking before, but it was better than it is now.
There was a permit for the wall.
Not according to the town.
Well, I'll get you a copy.
When it was built or afterwards? Because it seems like everything's being done after the fact here. Now, is the pool full of water right now? I assume it is. So you have a mosquito haven there. Killing the mosquitoes is not work, that's maintenance. Having a fence around it is maintenance. Now, you have a snow storage here that's pretty small for that size parking lot. That's my first comment. Right now, there's no erosion control across the front of that building, so the stockpile on the left side of that broken up driveway that's there now runs over the pavement, down on Duncan Street and down the street. You got a real steep slope on the east side, and you're gonna put a silt barrier there, and you don't have a detail for your siltation barrier on the plans, which should be submitted. And what keeps the gravel path from washing down the road right now? There's a stockpile halfway up there. It looks like fine material. Any type of heavy rainstorm, that's gonna come down the road. And on the 3-inch minus wash stone filled polygon shaped unit with the unit, I believe you don't even have that really detailed, but you do kind of sort of, but not in the plan view that I can understand. What keeps that from getting clogged? Who's going to maintain the stone to keep it from getting clogged so it works? Who maintains that?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, you would actually have that as part of a operation and maintenance plan. And
That
by the
story
way,
before.
and you mentioned the erosion control barrier. There is a detail on one of the detail sheets.
Oh, with the straw wattle, yeah. I see it
It's
now.
a silt fence and straw wattle combination.
I would prefer hay bales myself on a slope like that. Maybe a few other comments here. I also heard mentioned there's 5 electric meters on the building. Why is there 5? There's 5, why? If there's 4 apartments that you're applying for, there's only 3 now, why is there 5?
Why is it 5?
Yeah. If you have 3 units now, that's a meter per unit, that's 3. If you want to expand it to a 4-unit building, that would be 4, but there's 5 on the building. Why is there 5? Something tells me that down the road, you're gonna put a fifth one in the basement or whatever. I don't know.
I don't believe that's correct. I
Maybe.
mean, I'm not sure why there's 5, but the only intent is 4. I'm puzzled by it, like you.
I'm very puzzled by it.
Real quick, my concern with that is if you're now applying for the 4th apartment, typically in a building like that, there would be 5 meters if there are 4 apartments plus a landlord meter. So that would constitute 5. So if you're now applying for the 4th apartment, why was already there a 4th meter?
Okay, yeah, I think that's probably correct.
But I'm concerned. It's upsetting to me that there's already a 4th meter there for a 4th apartment if we're now just talking about adding the 4th apartment.
Well, you can take a meter out. It's not difficult to
It's
remove
not
a
about
meter.
taking, I know it's not about taking it. We are now talking about adding a 4th apartment. Why is there provisions for a 4th apartment already?
And they don't have a permit yet.
Because they're optimistic that they're going to get an approval.
I hate optimistic.
So, speaking of guardrails, is there gonna be a guide rail on the east side of the gravel path? Because that's a steep slope off of there. And I know that's gonna be used by maintenance vehicles.
No, there's not.
There should be.
It's not a normal path of travel. It's going to be a grassed slope with the stone leading runoff towards the back of the property. There's going to be no normal travel of that. A maintenance vehicle every year, every 6 months at most.
There may be no.
Driving at, 5 miles an hour.
No.
Is any of the heating system put in the building yet, roughed in?
I'm sure there was an existing heating system that was in place, and I can't answer that question.
Is there gas on Duncan Street?
I don't know.
Natural gas? No? Is there any on Carroll Street?
Ends in Lincoln Street.
It ends at Lincoln Street?
Right, doesn't continue all the way up.
On the timber guardrail detail, I noticed that I assume it's going to be pressure-treated wood, ground contact for the posts? Because I noticed the detail says you're going to paint the stuff underground. When you paint any type of wood underground and don't paint the whole thing, the water gets in the post and it rots it out from the inside out.
Noted.
On the detail for the infiltration structure, you did a nice job delineating what's going where, but you didn't delineate what the top's going to be. Is that gravel? Is that loam and seed? It just says finished grade.
It's going to be just loam and seed. It's going to be a grass surface.
Okay. On your bollards to protect the front of the building, are those galvanized and painted yellow, or are they going to be the steel posts with the cover on them? Is there going to be a reflective stripe on it?
Steel pipe with yellow traffic paint, and again, is what we
And no reflective stripe?
hadn't thought of that at the time, but that could be added. It's primarily, again, it's just for the odd person who hits the...
Wants to pull in too far. No, I know why it's
Or
there.
hits the gas instead of the brake.
I know why it's there. Well, so far, from what I've seen, what I've heard, what I've seen myself, the owners in the last 3 years have not been good neighbors. I mean, it's very well overgrown. Even the growth was taken down, you get rid of the rodents for the most part. I mean, I know you got rats. There's rats everywhere in the whole neighborhood. Ever since they did Julia Bancroft High School, they're everywhere now. And is there going to be a dumpster, or are they going to have individual trash bins like everybody else on the street? You don't know.
Yeah, we haven't made that determination yet, but we'll be coming back to see you again, so I think we're going to have an answer for you at that time.
There should be some resolution on the stone wall, what you plan on doing with that. I may have a call to the Conservation Commission to see if they can have you go in and clean up all the silt that went into the wetlands. And I don't know, now that you have a pond in the backyard and it's called a swimming pool, what kind of wildlife's living in there? I mean, I know, but I mean, if it's something that's endangered, what do you do?
Coyotes, foxes,
I'm just talking about aquatic life. I'm not talking about the surrounding.
Could get a fishing pole, I suppose.
I'm sure there's ducks in there. There's probably turtles in there. There's probably any number of things. In the fence that they say, which you can't see from the front of the building around the pool, is in disrepair. I don't care who said not to do anything up there. That's a safety violation anywhere that you have an in-ground pool. And will the pool be restored? Is the pool going to be restored, or is it going to be filled in?
The intention is that it be restored, yes. I specifically asked the applicant when we were looking at where we were putting the infiltration area in the backyard for keeping proximity, keeping away from if necessary, and I was told that the intention is that the pool be restored.
Okay, so when you have a pool, is all the plumbing done on the pool? Is this, nobody knows if it's in good shape? You may have to dig up all around the pool to replace that. So now where does the backwash water go? If it's chlorinated, you can't just let it run on the ground. If it's diatomaceous earth, you have to be careful where that goes, because that's a controlled substance, basically. And it's, the dust from it's deadly in any human being if you ingest enough. Absolutely.
So Mark Ravlin, 9 Duncan Street. Thank you. Just as a reminder, and I know I probably don't need to remind, but that we're bringing up a good discussion about the pool, more runoff construction, and I just want to remind, my well is right here.
Have you had your well tested since all the infiltration came down?
I have not. But I'm more concerned now with this catch basin being right in the corner of that property because of how the flow comes down the hill. But to your point on the pool, how, if that's going to be drained, where's that going? So, thank you.
I don't believe you can drain it on the ground if it's over a certain amount of parts per million. I don't know what that parts per million is, but I know when you chlorinate a water main, it's less than 100 parts per million to chlorinate the water main. So I don't know how strong the chlorine's going to be there, who's going to maintain it, is there going to be a lifeguard there for kids, how deep is the pool, is there going to be a diving board, all that stuff.
So, Mr. Chairman, we know that we do not have a second review letter back from Graves Engineering. We have to ask the board for a continuance. I know you have other items on your agenda as well. So we would request that the board please continue this to their next hearing. I'm not sure what that date would be.
No, that's not a problem. We can continue to the next meeting. Now, the catch basin down the corner, or the riprap splash pad is basically what it's called.
Yeah, there's no catch basin.
Right. It's a splash pad. So, and you have a pipe coming from...
That's simply so that water running off doesn't cause erosion or scour there, because it would be running down I don't know, it's basically like a 2-to-1 slope or 1.5-to-1 existing slope.
What about the rest of the slope heading to the west? Is that a splash pad, we'll call it a splash pad, big enough to handle the flow just from the end of your disturbed earth line to the property line? And then on top of that, you have a pipe going from the stone on the dirt traveled way all the way down to that splash pad.
And I can get you we usually use this Connecticut DOT, who did this marvelous job of showing with tables and graphs how big a splash pad or scour hole you have to have to...
That's great, but we're in
I'll get you
Massachusetts,
that.
we're not in Connecticut.
No, well, water is still the same, though. And they
Connecticut
have a
has different
standard of it where
DOT
Mass
standards than
DOT doesn't.
Massachusetts. It has to come from the
Mass DOT doesn't have it, sir. So it's the best reference that there is.
Someone in the state of Massachusetts must have it. I just think the place up there right now is deplorable. I'm pretty underwhelmed by the attention to it, as I'm sure some of the property owners are. So to me, even with Graves' comments and your responses, and they come back, it still doesn't cover everything on the plans that everybody's concerned about. The biggest thing is the building's an eyesore right now. I don't care if you put trees around it, a nice driveway and landscape, you're still putting lipstick on a pig. It's still gonna look awful. It's still gonna look like an office building. Is there anything we can do to the facade of that to make it more neighborhood friendly? And I'm gonna find out who gave the permit to put the brick up, because it looks, and the windows, it looks awful. It does. I mean, it's not your fault. You're the architect. I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at anybody. It just frustrates me.
And, Mr. Chairman, I was just going to say the attorney and I were just consulting and looking at all the different things to address. I don't know what the time is of your next meeting, if it's 2 weeks out, but we would think we would need a month out to be able to come back to you.
Oh, you can continue, 2 weeks out, a month out, 6 weeks out, whatever.
Our next meeting is not till September 10th.
Okay,
Right, so
I
it's a
just
month.
wanted to be realistic. I didn't
Roughly.
want to
The next meeting's
tell
roughly a
you, oh,
month.
we'll be back on August 27th, if that's,
No, we don't have a meeting till September 10th. That's our next meeting.
I think we would ask then to continue to that meeting.
If you can't, just get a hold of Adam and tell him you want a continuance, and then we vote on it at the next meeting, we continue it. There's never really a problem if someone asks for a continuance.
I think for the next meeting, just speak with your client, just a lot of the programming of the space, of the land use, landscape architecture. I think that would help put some of the neighbors at ease and actually help you get your project underway. But without that, I think you're going to have a room full of people, once again, who are going to tell you no.
Understand?
I would contact the town. If you're telling me they told you to stop work, that's fine. But I would contact the town and get someone to say, okay, you can go in and cut down all the grass, you can empty the pool, you can put a maintenance fence around the pool, just trying to clean up the area. It's an absolute mess up there right now. It is an eyesore. There was a young woman in the back that wanted to ask a question?
Yes,
Yep, please.
Good evening, my name is Chantel Trella. I reside at 1 Duncan Street, which is to the west. And I'm the one that started all the picture taking as soon as demolition started, landscaping, yard work. And what happened was there was a hillside there. And we have a fence up on our property line. They started digging, just literally with a backhoe, just came in and dug and dug and dug and dug. Literally, the whole wall came down. It caused our fence to collapse. I went over and I got in touch with them. I personally spoke to the owners, and they told us, oh, we're sorry, we thought it was our fence, don't worry about it, we're gonna put up a new one, which, in turn, they did put up the fence, but there's no hillside there anymore, so, which causes drainage now from us being on the top of the hill. So of course, that hillside is gone, so what's coming from the top of ours is then coming down into that property at 7 Duncan, which of course is affecting their property. So our question is, they put up a new fence, but it's on our property line. So, and it's still eroding, and there's dips under the fence. We have children that play in the backyard. And when that erodes, who's taking care of the fence then? Because now is it our problem because it's our property and they put it in place of the fence that we already had there? Or is it gonna come their
I'm not a lawyer by any stretch of the imagination, but if they put the fence in, did they put it on the property line, my first question, or 1 foot behind the property line?
So it's on the property line, and I started taking pictures. I have a whole folder of all things that were going on, and where they're opting to say that they're going from a 3-family to a 4-family, I have pictures, there's only 2 meters on that house before they started construction.
So,
So was it really only a two-family that was not, it's an illegal, I believe it was an illegal 3, whatever they tried to use it as. So there's only 2 meters on the old house before they did their reconstructing.
Okay.
It turned into 5.
as far as your fence goes, if that's on the property line, it's half on their property. Do you know that? So they're responsible just as much as you are.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, the plans, which the survey was done by B&R Survey, show that fence as entirely, though just barely, but entirely on the applicant's property.
But the owner of the property in question here put it up.
They used the same fence holes, the same fencing, the posts and everything. They literally, because they had no choice unless we were gonna go to, small claims court. I wasn't gonna go that route. I was in contact with them. And she said, oh, no, we're gonna make it look so nice. And I was originally told that they had to start the outside construction first because the town was giving them such a problem with getting the permits to do any of the inside work. And then there was a construction accident over there that stopped their landscaping for quite a while. And it's just been, like, my husband said, we've got children. Our yard is literally right there. And these windows are massive. It's massive, and it just looks right into, there's no privacy.
Okay, so back to the fence. On their side of the fence, if it's eroding, it's going to affect your fence. That's on them, that's not on you. They have to fix that.
So they
Number
have
one,
to
they're
fill in
liable
on our
already
side
because-
also?
Number one, they're already liable for it because they knocked it down.
Right.
Just because they put it back up doesn't remove their liability, I don't believe, especially if they took away the earth from their side.
Correct. Right, because they kept digging and digging, and there was all trees there, so they dug out the roots, and when they dug out the roots were in our yard, which uprooted into our yard.
Oh, yeah. So, if I live over on Gates Court, so if I lived up around this area like you do, I'd be contacting the selectmen, I'd be contacting the Conservation Commission, I'd be contacting the building inspector, or the building department, I'd be contacting the DPW. We don't have that jurisdiction. I just don't want everybody to leave here going, oh, where do we go now? The planning board doesn't have any answers. Well, I just gave you 5 places you can go to hopefully
Okay.
get some answers. But if they,
Would it be possible to have representatives at the next meeting?
Adam can ask.
Can you repeat the question?
Would it be feasible at the planning to have people from DPW in the town so that y'all could be here, we could address the issues? Instead of going to 3, 4, 5 separate departments?
I can ask. I can't promise they show, but I can ask.
But it'd simplify matters, because you keep saying DPW and the town and everything. If we had representatives here, they could field the questions. So we wouldn't be going to 4 or 5 different offices and trying to give you secondhand information.
Like I said, I can ask. I can't tell them they have to come. I can only ask.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know the legality of that, where this is the planning board, and then you have the DPW come in, and you have the conservation come in. I don't know the legality if they're not stepping on our toes, but impeding on a meeting that they're not allowed to. I don't know. That'd be a question for the town council. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a lawyer, far from it.
And who do we contact to see what dwelling that was before? To see if it was permitted for?
You can talk to the building department.
The building department.
Building department will tell us what it was permitted for.
We have nothing to do really with permits, as far as building and stuff like that goes.
Because going from 2 to 5 is a big difference. Going from 2 to 4 is a big difference. Plus, you have the potential to add 16 at least, maybe, more people. So just the traffic flow, the noise, everything else, like we said, we've got children, we've got young children, we've got pets, everything else that, I know that a previous leach field was close to the fence line, so now I don't want them to start eroding that and to get into more issues.
Is the leach field in use now?
No. No.
Did you own the house when they hooked up to the sewer?
No, we've only been there for 8 years,
You know if the
so.
septic tank got filled in?
No, we don't have any of that. We're good town sewer, water, sir.
Right, but there was an existing septic tank near that leach field. So if you get a sinkhole in your yard, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's a septic tank. That happened to my neighbor across the street. They didn't fill it in like they were supposed to.
Yes, sir. I'll keep an eye out on it, but as of right now, there's no erosion in that area she's speaking about.
Okay.
It's, a little further off, but it's close to the fence line from where they were digging. And there was not even any kind of fencing up, even in the front of the property, just until I believe it was October of
Last year?
past year. And I was thinking of it because of thinking of the kids trick-or-treating and right next to Halloween. So I know that they've got a temporary chain fence up there. But they had a dumpster there on that gravel road for at least 2 years. And there was trash in it. It was trash and piles of debris.
People will find an empty dumpster from all over the place, believe me. Word gets around. Are there any more wells downstream on the east side of this property other than yours? You know? And you use that well, right? Yes. The woman in the back in the black, you had a question? After this question, I'm going to have to end this and continue the meeting because we have many more things on the agenda.
Hi, my name is Maureen Laramie. I live at 8 Buttonwood Lane. My backyard is directly across the street from the house. There's a wide path there. We, as well as Chantel, have children. We have a child with special needs. The safety of adding the amount of 16 people directly across from us, he is watched, he is not let loose. He's 20 years old, but the safety of people just being there, where Duncan Street is such a poorly cared for street, is just something that's on my mind that I just don't want. I just want our kids to be looked out for as well, too.
Yeah, that's another avenue to travel is the building department, even the health department.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Being that's it, may I have a motion to continue the hearing till our next September meeting, please?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, Glenn?
Aye.
Marquez? Ron?
Aye.
Aye.
Jason? Myself, John
We're
Regan,
doing
and
it
aye.
with- John, we're doing it with respect to your call.
If your time.
You still need more time.
Yes, that's standard. Oh, the only other thing I would say is next time you turn in a photo, circle the building.
When in September, sir?
September 10th.
September 10th.
September 10th. Right now. Pardon me?
No,
No. It'll be on the town website if I'm not mistaken, correct?
yeah, agenda will be posted Thursday before the meeting.
Thank you for your time.
Next on the agenda is applicant Dr. Syed M. Ali Tahir, requesting site plan approval under section 3.2.3.7 of the Auburn zoning bylaw for cemetery at 0 Cemetery Road, Auburn, Mass., map 01501, map 3, parcel 54. Is there anyone representing Dr. Tahir? Hello, Mr.
I guess
Tahir.
nobody wanted to stay.
I appreciate that.
Where'd everybody go?
On record, I feel lonely now.
I didn't quite hear that, but...
I feel lonely now?
Oh, lonely, yes. I'm also the chair of my local planning board, and we have one project.
If you're gonna talk downstairs. We're still trying to hold a meeting here, please.
So I feel your pain when everybody leaves after the one
Would you
application.
just re-identify yourself again?
Sure. Dennis Moran, Dennis Moran with Ty and Bond, on behalf of the applicant. We have Todd Curtin, who's the LSP, the licensed site professional, on the project. Do you want me just to speak for this, Todd? Sorry, I just kind of got up here. Okay. So, thank you. If you guys need a break, I'm happy to take a little recess, too.
No,
You're good, okay.
Wish I would keep going.
So, about a month ago, we received comments from your third-party reviewer, engineer. We took a look at those, we addressed those, we provided a letter. generally answered all of the outstanding questions. I'll say half of them were related to procedural additions to the drawings, fairly minor. The other half, 40%, were related to stormwater design. We addressed those comments as well. There was a few other minor questions about queuing of the road and the gate and cars and stuff like that. We also addressed some ADA spaces as well. A very high level summarizing, unless you want to walk through all of those.
No.
Okay.
Is there anyone, are you all set?
Unless you want me to go through some additional detail, but,
No.
okay.
Is there anyone from the audience that has any questions for this gentleman? Anybody on the board? No? Okay.
Actually, John, one question.
Go
So,
ahead.
just to from the Graves report and your comments, I think there was one where Graves did not review the Wetlands Protection Act regulations. Is there, is that a concern for us?
That's Conservation Commission.
Conservation, okay. And then the hazardous material?
Fire.
Fire, okay.
Ron?
No other questions?
I just saw something when I was looking at the print about, you're having a pile of dirt there. It was on the print, it just showed a pile of dirt and you were leaving it for something. I didn't know if that was gonna be dirt you would be just using at the cemetery or you'd be spreading it or something.
I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. There will be material on site occasionally for,
It's not that important.
okay.
I was hoping to get it today, but.
Okay. Jason, anything from you? Everybody else all set? Okay, my first question is, when did this town become the town of Grafton?
Was there a typo in the,
Dear members of the planning board, Time Bond has received the initial comments from the town of Grafton's peer review consultant. That's the first line of the letter.
so there's a typo in the beginning of
That's
the...
not a typo. To me, that's a lack of attention to detail.
Okay.
That's minor, but I just wanted to point it out. And then I noticed that there's no water going into the site. How are they going to water the flower, if you plant flowers there at the grave sites? How are they going to be able to water?
So that would be on the individuals that install those
Water.
flowers. I would assume that they would have to bring their own flowers, or sorry, own water. However, there's no need to water anything on the site, so that the applicant is not anticipating installing a water line. If individuals want to plant flowers, then they would have to water them themselves.
Right, I mean, but most cemeteries, like the one across the street here, they have a water line, they run just during the summer months and it's shut off for the winter, they blow it all out, so people have access to the water.
They just
It's
don't have
also
a
a town
desire.
cemetery, so.
They don't have a desire to provide that service.
So
Okay, and there's no water on this.
with no water available, when you're all said and done, you'll only see the entire area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna water the grass to make it grow?
The same way they do on the side of the roads.
Same way they do what?
On the side of the roads, for any other large site, you hydroseed it and the grass naturally grows. It's low.
It still needs water. Hydroseed dries out, believe me, it dries out.
I'm well aware of that, but respectively, like, they don't water the roadways for erosion control. You don't water.
Every construction job I worked on, if a contractor or whomever planted grass, they were responsible per contract for the first 3 mowings, which meant they had to water it until it was fully grown. So I just don't want to have, I have no objection to this project, I really don't. It's just that I don't want to see this gentleman and his congregation, I'll call it that, go through all this, spend all this money, and then just have a brown field.
So that would be the responsibility of the contractor to ensure vegetation growth. If they have to truck water in, they do. If they have to plant in a season,
Is that going to be in the specifications for this project?
will be.
If it isn't-
It's also, or it's in the drawing set on the erosion control that they're required to have 85% vegetation growth to close out the SWIP.
I know, are they responsible for mowing the grass till it's fully grown, like 3 mowings, which is usually like, say you plant in the planting season, April to May, or September to October, usually takes 2 months for it to, to fully grow, even if it's, and I know hydroseed grows on fence posts, it grows on pavement, it grows everywhere, believe me, I know. But I just don't want to see somebody go to all this trouble and not have that in the plan where they have to maintain it and mow it till they're satisfied with.
So the requirement is vegetation growth and coverage, not mowing.
Okay, so in the spec for the vegetation growth, is it a grass mix? Is it a field mix? Is it a contractor's mix?
There's a seed specification mix on the drawings.
Pardon me?
There's a
I don't have the
seeds-
drawings. We don't get a redone of the drawing, sorry. So,
It's in your application package.
okay, that's fine, as long as it's in there.
And it was also a comment that was brought up by Graves Engineering, and we reissued it. So it's on, if I flip through. It is a low-growth mix that is highly tolerant to drought. It's usually a mix of Kentucky bluegrass, fescue, and rye.
That's what I
Rye.
figured. I just want this.
Okay.
You're good. You're good. So unfortunately, we can't vote to approve this tonight because even though you've addressed all of Graves' comments, we haven't got their affirmation that they meet what they required. So we should, Adam was hoping to get it today. We didn't get it today. If we'd gotten it today, we probably could have voted. But by our standards, we can't do that. So on our September 10th meeting, we should have that back from them. And if everything's hunky-dory, then this should go through with no problem. I don't see anybody have any problems here with it. I don't want to hold it up, but I can't just say, go ahead, and somebody come, up behind me and go, hey, you can't do that.
Yep, I understand that. And you've already reached out to Jeff, Adam?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So if you're all set,
No, I appreciate everybody's time.
no problem. And I appreciate you waiting all the time. Believe me, I appreciate you waiting all the time.
Unless, sorry, Jason, do you have a? No, Can we attend virtually next time? Is that acceptable, or?
Yeah, I think so.
If we
Right?
have virtual, that's a bit of discussion.
Assuming that
That's
Graves doesn't have 45 comments, but I don't think they will.
I don't know if I can do this, but tonight we're having a discussion whether to continue the online attendance or get rid of it.
If somebody has to come in person, it's totally fine. I understand.
Or we'll keep it to the next meeting. We'll vote on that tonight. We'll keep it to the next meeting. So if you can do it virtually, online, next meeting, fine.
Okay.
Instead of making it.
We can make it
I
if we
don't know
have
where you live. I know Time Bond's out in Agawam, so if you're from out there.
I'm in
it's all right.
Portsmouth, but
You live where?
Portsmouth. Todd's close.
Okay. I just ain't seen anybody travel because I've been that route.
And Debbie, I think you had a question about knotweed. Was that?
What?
She had a question about invasive management, and I did some research.
Okay.
What was that on?
Invasive management?
Japanese knotweed?
Yes, about how to treat and deal with that.
Conservation.
I'm mixing up my meetings, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. It's been a long night. And if you're from Portsmouth, it's been a real long day.
So yes, we will respectfully request a continuance to the 10th of September.
I move to continue this hearing till September 10th.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in
Thank you
favor?
very
Glenn?
much.
Rakesh?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Myself, Jeremy's aye. It is a vote. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Virtually, hopefully. Thank you. And thanks for your patience tonight. Okay. Next on the agenda is applicant J.P. Morgan Chase requesting special permit and site plan approval under section 3.2.5.11 of the Auburn zoning bylaw for a bank with a drive-through at 368 Southbridge Street, Auburn, Mass. 01501, map 33, parcel 81. Is there anyone here representing J.P. Morgan, or have they asked for another continuance?
They asked for a continuance, they're hoping to be ready for the next meeting.
Okay. May I have a motion to continue?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Yeah. I'll second it.
All those in favor, we only need four.
Aye.
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 Myself, John Rees, and I. Make a note that Glenn wasn't in the room when we voted. Next on the agenda is applicant CMS LLC, care of Henry Resnikoff, requesting a special permit and site plan approval under section 3.2.5.3 of the zoning bylaw for a coffee shop and other site improvements at 602 Southbridge Street, Auburn, Mass. 01501, map 56, parcel 148. I assume you gentlemen are representing them because you're standing up. Thank you.
We are. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Henry Reznikoff. With me, 65 Main Street, Iverton, Connecticut, 06442. With me is Jeff Board of Bowler Engineering. Introduce himself when he comes up. We're here tonight to remind you that we're seeking approval for a freestanding coffee shop of 2,400 square feet with a drive-up as allowed with site plan approval and special permit under sections 3.253 and 3922 as memorialized in the zoning determination letter issued in October of 2023. Just to remind the commission, the plan reduces impervious surface. Right now, as you probably know, it's the old Bentley site. It's completely blacktop. Currently, there's 45,600 square feet of impervious surface. We are only proposing 25,905 square feet. There's extensive landscaping, which is part of your package with drought-resistant and native plantings. We will be maintaining the stone wall that runs along Southwood Street, which everybody I'm sure is familiar with. In addition, just to remind the commission, we have a certificate of decision on special permit on March 21st, 2024 for special activities in Aquifer Zone 2. It's already been recorded. Mass DOT has already issued no requirement for an indirect access permit. Your third-party engineer, Graves, sent us a letter and said that all the changes that he cited had been corrected by Bowler, and no further comments were done. So obviously, we're here tonight seeking the commission's approval of the site plan. I would like to address three specific areas after Jeff speaks that you raised at our first meeting about traffic concerns, loading, and the proposed crosswalk, I'm sorry. So I'm going to let Jeff speak first, and then I'll address those specifically.
Thank you.
Forgive me for leaning, but I understand.
You can bring a chair over if you want, it's not a problem. Okay.
Good evening. Jeff Board, professional engineer with Bowler Engineering. Appreciate you guys taking the time tonight. Wanted to walk through, as Henry alluded to, one of the concerns that we heard last time in front of this commission was that there was this piece of DOT land that's immediately south of the property, which is all asphalt right now. It's about 3,000 square feet, a little over 3,000 square feet of impervious surface. At the time of our last meeting, we had not had permission from Mass DOT to remove that asphalt, so in the previous plans, that was remaining, and the curb cut associated with that asphalt was also remaining. We've since received that approval. We heard the comments. We reached out to Mass DOT. That will now be planted, which helped to reduce the impervious even further than it was previous. And that's not often on a redevelopment site. We get to reduce impervious by this much, but it's almost half an acre of reduction in impervious surface from what's currently shown on the existing aerial here. Let's see. Well, this loads, this is just a colorized version of the site plan that was submitted. One of the other concerns that we had heard was regarding the fire marshal's comments about the fire lane. We did reach out and had several conversations with the fire marshal on a few of his outstanding comments and have located that. If you guys can see my cursor here. It's basically right in this zone here. And he also required us to run truck circulation. We reached out to their department, and they sent us the specs for their vehicle, their largest 48-foot vehicle that we ran and provided as part of our resubmission, and had no further comments from fire as well. A couple, as Henry alluded to, a lot of the Graves Engineering comments. I think we had 4 pages of comments left. The recent letter we received back from them came back with a clean bill of health. They said that we had adequately addressed all of the outstanding comments. We did provide a snow storage exhibit as part of this submission, which was brought up at the last meeting, and then a lighting plan that's got LED, slim, dark sky compliant fixtures mounted at 20 feet in height. So those were the big changes from the last time we were in front of this board, all for the positive. And with that, I could turn it over to Henry, and then at the end of this, I'll be happy to answer any questions from you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You should each have in front of you a hardbound copy of the traffic report. One of the reasons we were delayed coming back to you was to get accurate traffic counts. So we've had 2 counts done, one in March, one in July. So these were both mechanical counts and observation counts. If you turned to page 4, you can see the study area that was done. which goes from the off-ramp off of Route 90 all the way down to the intersection of Oxford Street and Southbridge Street.
Is that on the permit set or one of the other two plans?
I'm sorry?
Is that-
It's on page 4 of the report.
Okay, we just got this today.
Yeah, it was submitted last Thursday electronically. It was my mistake. I did not understand you needed the physical copies Thursday, so I just delivered them tonight. When I got the note from Adam, it was too late to get them printed physically and turn them into you.
Okay.
So I just wanted to start with, because you raised 3 key questions at the last meeting, and I wanted them addressed. So one, that's the study area, so you know. The conclusions are all on page 21, but some specific things that should be noted. On page 13, you'll note that at peak, which is AM 7 to 9 and PM 4 to 6 on weekdays, Saturdays, which is 11 to 1, they are projecting that it adds 1 car every 2 to 3 minutes in that specific area. And in fact, in the PM, it's fewer cars than the current use of the restaurant. And that's all detailed out. And I can go into that specifically if you want to know each, I have them all marked up if you want to know each reference. Mr. Chairman, you asked specifically about queuing. There's queuing for 15 cars on site. In addition, there's 5, it could take 5 more cars in the parking lot. The traffic engineer again addresses this, that there will be no impact on traffic on Oxford Street. The only person that might get inconvenienced in this whole thing is someone trying to exit at peak load, and that is a customer's problem, not interfering with Oxford Street itself, because they're on site. I believe the gentleman at the far end on the left asked about loading. I specifically found out that the typical loading is done by vans, and occasionally there's an SU-30 or WB-40, typically 3 times a week, typically between the hours of 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock. That's when loading's done. And if you look at the 2 templates that Jeff has done for fire and for trash, they match the same templates because the biggest truck that they use is smaller than the biggest fire truck that the town has. Finally, Mr. Graves, the engineer, suggested perhaps adding a crosswalk. The traffic engineer notes on page 15 that during all of the observations, there was 1 pedestrian an hour seen during all of the study periods, and all of that information, all that detail is in here. So he is not thinking a crosswalk is necessary. As you probably know, on Oxford Street right now, there are 2 crosswalks. There's one right above, I guess that's north, of where the off-ramp comes, and the second one is up by the police department, by the skating rink. And they're both, as you can, if you can picture them, fairly narrow, painted blue. So he does not think a crosswalk is warranted given the level of traffic. We have added the piece of sidewalk he asked for that goes from Southbridge Street up to the driveway. So someone, if there were someone walking on Southbridge Street and wanted to walk up and turn the corner, they can walk on sidewalk. Other than that, I am happy to answer any questions you have, or I can go into more detail on the traffic study if you'd like to.
Board have any questions? Glenn?
Yes, so your distributor is not QCD, the distribution company for your products? Because I've seen their trucks delivering...
I didn't ask who the distributor was.
All right, okay. Well, I'm questioning that because every time I'm out on the road and I see a Starbucks getting a delivery, it's a company called QCD, and they have 53-foot trailers.
I'm reporting what I was...
Not counting the cab, that's 53 feet. So that's 65 feet total.
I'm just reporting what I was told.
Yeah.
Even at 53 feet, that still matches basically the same size as the largest fire truck that you have.
Well, 53 feet is just the trailer, and then you
Yeah,
add
yeah,
7
understood.
feet for the cab.
And again, they're saying it's typically 3 times a week between vans and trucks.
Is that it, Glenn?
That's it for me.
Rakesh?
Thank you for the update. So I have a few questions. One, I think simple one is on the site plan C301. There is no indication of the handicap spots. I don't know if,
Yes, so they're basically right in this location here, if you could see my hand. If they were frozen on the site plan, I apologize, but they are located, and then on the grading plan, they're grayed out so that they meet ADA compliance. They're basically in this location right here, and there's 2 of them that meet code.
then the updated, I think the fire truck, the path,
Correct.
was that reviewed by the fire department?
Yes.
It was?
Yep.
Okay.
I think they had 3 or 4 comments, and they reviewed all 4 and had no further comment.
The updated version?
Correct.
I see, okay. Then I think on the traffic report, so I have not reviewed the book yet, but
No.
is that different from the Chappell Engineering study that was presented?
Yes. The Chapwell engineering study that you got initially was based on some initial counts.
Yeah.
Based on the comments that were made at the meeting that we were at, we had Chapel go back out and do a complete traffic study on a larger scope. So this covers a much larger scope area, more intersections, and more additional mechanical counts. So this is up to date. There was also a comment about a concern about summer traffic, so it was done in July.
I see. So I'm looking at page 21 then.
I'm sorry, which page?
Page 21. So it says on a typical Saturday, the site redevelopment is expected to generate 378 new vehicle trips, right? I think that's a significant number, considering that we have 15 cars in the drive-through lane already. And if each car is trying to enter Oxford Street while there is traffic backed up on Southbridge from, going into the Pike, you're now looking at a significant impact on, congestion right there.
And I think if you look at the chart he has, which I believe is chart 5, about the exiting and peak load exitings, you'll see it only adds 1 car peak load, not much different what's there now. If you look on page 22, which is in his conclusions, it says, in summary, the project is expected to result in only minor increases to vehicle delays and queuing that result in no notable change in traffic operations. The proposed site access has been designed to ensure safe access is provided with acceptable traffic operations and queuing on the driveway's approach to Oxford Street. And he repeats that 3 times throughout this whole report.
So I think, I think the traffic operations maybe on this site are probably not impacted, but I think going into Oxford Street and then going to Southbridge would be impacted, right? So
No, he actually addresses that also. There's a whole section about directional and where people come from. I can step back and find it for you if you want me to. He looked at how many people are coming from Oxford onto Southbridge, how many coming from Southbridge onto Oxford, where the turns are, where the interruptions are, and he again came to, and he does this independently, I mean, nobody tells him what to do. He came to the conclusion that it has a minor impact on those queues.
Okay, I'll review that. It's just, so I think based on today's traffic pattern, if the cars are coming in from Oxford Street onto Southbridge, then you add, at least 15 cars piling up, and how many cars are entering the site per hour? Do you have a number on that?
I can find it if you
Yeah,
give me
that's
a
fine,
minute.
that's fine. I mean, I think it's something that we'll have to look into, but it doesn't truly, I mean, I was there last week, and I was passing through Southbridge, and I see a backup every Saturday there, right? And I'm sure that's the problem with days and nights too, so.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not disagreeing. Anything else, Rakesh? No. Ron?
Just, he's looking up.
If you look on, and again, every single piece of data is in here, but if you look on page 7, existing traffic volume summary,
Which page is that?
page 7, table 1,
Has Greg seen this yet?
that tells you the existing peak load traffic.
Who does?
And again, you need to read the footnotes to fully understand it.
I see.
Then if you look down, and what he's done is he looked at speed, sight distances, crash history. He compared it to peak loads off the ITE data. He looked at it, the Massachusetts data. I'm trying to find the one specific one I want to tell you. He looked at crash history. Oh, if you go to page 11, which is the future conditions, which is really the concern you're raising, and you read through that whole section, let me just see if I can find it real quickly. And he does all your trip generations. I'm just looking for the conclusionary statement because I read all the detail also, and he gives you all the specific detail on these nice little charts. Here it is. If you look on the bottom, on page 13, I mean, I can read the last two paragraphs if you want me to. The trip generation projections for the project are summarized in Table 5. As summarized, the proposed development is expected to generate 368 new vehicle trips, 184 entering, 184 exiting, over a typical 24-hour weekday, including 19 new vehicle trips, 12 entering, 7 exiting during the weekday AM peak hour, and 26 new vehicle trips, 13 entering, 13 exiting during the weekend PM hour. On a typical Saturday, the site redevelopment is expected to generate 378 vehicle trips, 189 entering, 189 exiting over a 24-hour period, including 19 new trips, 9 entering, 10 exiting during the Saturday midday peak. The conclusion is this level of new traffic during peak hours of roadway traffic amounts to only 1 new vehicle trip or less every 2 to 3 minutes, which does not represent a significant increase in new area traffic. Because you've got to remember, he's taking this traffic and comparing it to what the current use is doing. And the marginal increase is why it's not having the big impact.
So this traffic study, as far as what's coming in and out of Starbucks, in and out, is theoretical.
I'm sorry.
The traffic study for coming in and out of Starbucks isn't factual, it's theoretical.
Well, all traffic studies are projections. But they're based on facts. The data was collected. There's different sources of data here. But any study like this would be a projection.
Any more questions, Marquez? Ron?
Just to touch back on the crosswalk, where were you going to put the crosswalk? One that would come across to let people...
Jeff can show you where it was suggested.
It was a mid-block crossing up in this location right here. The traffic engineer had some initial concerns over having a mid-block crossing.
Not one that would
Like the idea of a crosswalk.
cross traffic
close
on
to
the
all
left
our
side where Oxford Street comes out, or the one where, to allow people to go up and down Southbridge Street.
Correct. Now they come up and down Southbridge, and there is a crosswalk here to the south as well, and then we provided that connection, as Henry alluded
But
to.
I mean, right at the intersection of Southbridge and Oxford. You know,
Right here?
would it be one going across so people can continue to go down towards, because there's not a lot, I'll agree, there's not a lot of people, but there are people that walk on that, and I've seen intermittently, because I'm there at all different times of the day.
Mr. Graves he didn't suggest that. He only suggested one at the mid-block, as Jeff said.
Correct. It's basically halfway in between the intersection and the on-off ramp, because anything down in this location was too close to that intersection, and we couldn't police it, and it wasn't safe in their mind. So that was the only thing that they had suggested, because you don't typically see the mid-block crossings.
Anything else, Ron? If you need a minute, I'll go to Jason, we can come back to you.
I'm good. I don't have any questions.
Really?
I don't have questions for this one.
Go ahead, Jason, and then I'll come back.
Jason's all set. I have a few questions. As you probably heard me mention to the Gentleman from Ty and Bond, lack of attention to detail. I didn't know I changed my name to Dugan. The letter's supposed to be addressed to me, and it's addressed to John T. Dugan. I don't know who that is, but be that as it may.
Which letter are you referring to? I'm sorry.
The one from Chappelle Engineering
Oh, the
Associates.
traffic study?
Yeah,
Oh.
July 23rd, 2024. So, we already mentioned the deliveries in the trailer trucks. And then, how far is the entrance and exit from Starbucks from the intersection of Southbridge Street?
About 100 feet or so?
It's pretty close. Is that 10 cars, roughly?
What's
Back
that?
up from the stop line?
Yeah, 10 to 12 cars.
I don't know when this traffic study was done, but I can guarantee you, at least once or twice a day, in both Saturday and Sunday, Oxford Street is backed up past the exit ramp from 290. Because the Mass Pike backs up, and it backs up down the ramp, down Southbridge Street, up Oxford Street. And you're talking about peak summertime. You've never seen the traffic in this town at Christmas time. You can't go from point A to B unless you get an extra 25 minutes. Am I lying? So I find the traffic study faulty in my perspective, and one of the reasons why is you can tell me all about 3 minutes and this and that, and then you have so many vehicles coming in and out for Bentley's. But Bentley's is a sit-down restaurant. They don't have the in and out like a Starbucks would. They're much more rapid with Starbucks. Bentley's, you go in, you sit down for an hour and a half, and if 300 people went in there all at the same time, they're all coming out within a 5-minute window of each other. Not happening. But Starbucks, if your queue is 5 minutes or 7 minutes or whatever it is, you're gonna be coming out of like gunshots into Oxford Street. I drive that road every day, and I get backed up every day. So I don't see the feasibility of this in this position, where it can back up Oxford Street. I've seen it go almost to the skating rink, because it backs up the exit ramp, and they're trying to get out into Oxford Street, and then it goes up Oxford Street. Now, you made the comment that somebody leaving the site, it's their problem because they're on your site. No, that's your problem. And I still can't figure out why Starbucks, because that's what it is, we're gonna call it like it is, it's a Starbucks, why they didn't proceed with the one up on Route 20 that was already approved. I don't get it. You have an approved site, use it. This site, to me, is not for the benefit of the town, it's only for the benefit of the chairman of the board of Starbucks. It's gonna increase traffic, it's gonna be a nightmare over there, I know it is. And I don't know what time they open up, what, 5 in the morning? Roughly? 5 or 6?
I don't know, I
So-
can't afford Starbucks.
Huh?
I don't know, I can't afford Starbucks.
Neither can I. But at 6 o'clock in the morning, there is no traffic at Bentley's from 11 at night till 11 the next morning. There is no traffic, so there's no comparison there. Starbucks will start opening at 5 or 6, and they're there till what, 9, 10 o'clock at night? I don't know, but that's constant traffic. And you tell me the peak is this and the peak is that. I've seen the peak vary at Starbucks right over here where they don't have a drive-through in Auburn, way off the quote-unquote normal peak times. Sometimes it's packed at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes it's packed at 3. Sometimes it's packed at, between 9 and 10 in the morning. It varies. There is no set way. And I just don't see the feasibility of this, and because it is so close to Southbridge Street, and you can talk to me till you're blue in the face, you're not going to convince me right now. We're not going to be able to vote on this tonight because I'm going to ask for a motion to send this traffic study to a traffic peer reviewer person, and maybe get more comments from the DPW and the fire department, all that, see what we can come up with, to see if they're in full agreement, because I don't want to step on anybody's toes in town, saying, well, the planning board approved it, so we can go ahead. Well, no. The zoning board of appeals has to approve the special permit as well. Even if we do, you still got to go to the zoning board, correct? For a special permit?
I'm not sure if they do for, not for the use, maybe for the aquifer, I'll have to check on that.
So the aquifer in this town is very important.
John, can I suggest one additional thing? So, you know, I think as a comparable study from a traffic standpoint, I think a good example is looking at Dunkin', the Dunkin' Donuts on Southbridge. You know, that's a, yeah, and that's a good example of the number of cars that line up and on Southbridge on a typical Saturday or a typical weekday.
Okay.
And then, you know, looking at Starbucks itself on Southbridge, you know, looking at the number of cars going, that's a sit-down, that's a full Starbucks, right? It's not a drive-through only.
This is a full service.
This is, so I think that's a good, yeah, there is no drive-through in that one. So that's a good example to understand just how many cars go in and out every minute, right? Now, compound that to the traffic that goes through, going into Mass Pike, you know, going on Oxford, on Southbridge into Mass Pike, or coming back. I think that's a significant value that these studies should be reflecting. So I think once we have that kind of a study involved, I think then we can have a better sense of what the real impact is on traffic.
I just want to say to Mike, that I didn't say before, if you're on Southbridge Street and you stopped at the light by the Shell station, and you're gonna take a left to go up Oxford, okay, say you're right there, and then you got the cars coming up Southbridge Street that could swing to the right to come in, and there'll probably be a few more doing that once a Starbucks goes in, because those people prior to getting on the turnpike will learn that it's there, and they'll want to stop there before they get on the pike.
Oh,
I
sure.
mean, it could. And when that light changes, because I've been there 100 times myself, when the light changes heading down Southbridge and taking a left on Oxford, they just go boom, and they're right there. You know, and they're moving. You could collide with those.
It's also right turn on red there, from coming from the center of town toward the Bentley's Pub. That's right turn on red. It's also right turn on red coming down Oxford Street, but the state, in its infinite wisdom, it's now become your problem. So when you stop at the light, I don't care what kind of vehicle you're in, if you're at the stop line and the green arrow goes on, you can't see it. It's out of your view. It should be across the street at the pole across the street. Because I've tooted my horn at many people, number one, for right on red. They'll back, I've seen people back up 20 cars back because the guy in the front's taking a right-hand turn and doesn't turn and right on red, there's no traffic coming. I mean, what do you do? And then we're gonna add all these vehicles to this? I don't see it. I really don't
You
see
know,
it.
you had the 3 exits and entrances, and I don't know.
I don't know what the crash study
Moved
is
up
there.
further, or goes up at the last one, but then it affects your inside flow for the line and everything else.
No, you had just stated that it was a full-service Starbucks?
It's a regular sit-down.
Well, that's not the way that was represented to us in the first place, in the first meeting. That was not the way it was represented to us in the first place, in the first meeting. No, it wasn't. It was represented as a drive-through.
Yes. Now, I think the last one, we specifically asked that question, and it was reflected as, it was a drive-through with...
There won't be anybody going inside, except to go up to the window, pick up their coffee, and go.
It's a restaurant, it's a 2,400 square foot coffee restaurant with drive-through.
I see, okay. Well,
I think we were all under the impression it was just a drive-through.
That is not correct.
So with that being said, the first thing I'd like to do is ask for a motion to send this traffic study for a peer review to one of our peer reviews that does traffic studies. Grave doesn't do it.
Could we get an updated version, or is that...
This is the updated version right here.
But does it really reflect, I mean, okay, so then we'll send it to a traffic.
I don't, personally, I don't think it's accurate. It may be accurate by their equipment. I don't know what time of day they put it out there. I don't know how long they left it out there. I really don't care. All I know is what I see with my naked eye. And I see traffic backing up now without a Starbucks. And I see, as Duarkesh mentioned, Dunkin' Donuts down the street. That backs up from Dunkin' Donuts, from the drive-through window, and that's a sit-down place too. They have parking. all the way up the driveway, across the top of the driveway, down Howe Ave, all the way down Route 12, up Swanson Road.
Yeah.
And there's nothing we can do about that. That was before my time. But we never had that problem when it was a Burger King.
But I think that's what we shouldn't be repeating here, right, with this?
No, I don't want to repeat it. That's why Starbucks and their engineer jumped through hoops for that place out on Route 20 to redo the queuing, so they had enough queue, and they wouldn't affect the traffic. Not only that, but coming out of that driveway, you can only go right. I mean, all you do is go up to the jug handle, turn around, and Cumberland Farms, a hop, skip, and a jump. But, and they did, they jumped through hoops to get that done. We finally said, okay, and now we get this, which is going to impact a major intersection in town. Because you're 100 feet from the intersection, which is way too close.
John, that's, we don't know in the future, and we have to think about it.
Absolutely.
Planning is what that is what could go on the Lowe's site.
Well, exactly. The old Dumpy's Tavern site. Yeah, I mean, that could be developed next year, we don't know.
Yeah.
And that's gonna come out on the Southbridge Street. When it was the hotel and restaurant, it was minimal, because people go and stay
We
overnight.
denied it when it came,
What?
the Lowe's site.
No, I mean, when it was still the hotel, there wasn't a lot of traffic in and out of it. People went and stayed overnight, people went and had dinner, very slow, in and out. And plus, the whole section of Route 12 was not as overbuilt as it is now. I mean, there was nothing on Route 12 then, nothing. Police station, that was about it. And it was Gino's hamburger joint at the time, and the Shell station. So,
Mr. Chairman, may I just say that we've taken a site that right now, from an environmental point of view, is pure blacktop. And we're reducing that blacktop and making a great deal of pervious surface, adding tremendous landscaping to that corner, making it extremely attractive, respecting the stone wall that was there, which was one of your concerns in when you're hearing earlier today.
you have to respect the stone wall, it belongs to the DOT,
Actually, the DOT told us we could take it down if we wanted to, but
and rebuild a new one.
no, they said we could take it down, and we said, no, we're leaving it. 'cause
What would you do to support
I
it?
think it's iconic.
4 or 5 foot high wall.
I understand that.
Do you know why
I've
that was
been going by that wall since I was a kid.
What's that?
I've been going by that site since I was a child.
Well, so you remember when there wasn't a stone wall there?
I do remember. I used
Be
to
an
go
excise
to
station.
Boston
Used to be a gas station.
many, many, many years
And it
ago.
had a entrance from Southbridge Street.
That's correct, and that you can't get. It would be wonderful if you could, but you can't. I understand your concerns about traffic, but I think that any use of this property is going to have traffic. Someone could come in here and ask for a much higher intensity than we're asking for. And I'm
can't think of
fully
anybody.
appreciative of what you're saying. Please don't think I'm not. But I also think that this is an added benefit to the town. It creates taxes, it creates jobs, and it's also a beautification of a corner that's sort of the heart as you go up there.
Excuse me, but you're speaking out of turn, because if this Starbucks goes through and it gets approved, the other Starbucks is going to close. So how are you inventing getting more jobs? You're not, you can use the same...
I can't speak to what they're going to do with the other
I know, you
the
can't even
store.
tell me it's a Starbucks.
I can't tell you what they're going to do with the other stores. I only know what they're doing with this one.
I know what they're going to do, they're going to close it.
I don't know.
I guarantee it. So you haven't created any more new jobs. It's great, less than pervious area, but until I get a peer review on the traffic study, I mean, like I said, you could talk to me blue in the face. This is not good for the town. It's not good for the traffic, it's not good for the safety situation. I don't know what the crash ratio is out there at Southbridge and Oxford Street.
It's
I
listed,
see one.
there's virtually no crashes recorded. It's in the study.
It's in the study.
Yes, sir.
How long was the study done over?
The study, here, we can turn to the crash data if you'd like. It's on page... Crash data is found on page 9. Specifically, crash data for the study intersections, that's all 5 of them, were from Mass DOT from 2015 and 2019, the latest 5 years available. Data for 2020 was not retrieved as traffic volumes were significantly lower during COVID, obviously. A summary of the MassDOT crash data is provided in Table 4. Additionally, in accordance with MassDOT guidelines for traffic impact assessment, the motor vehicle crash rate was calculated for each study area intersection separately and compared with the statewide and district-wide averages. An intersection crash rate is measured, and it explains the technicality of how it's measured.
Okay, so
So
according
let's
to
just
Table
flip to the next
4,
page.
according to Table 4, your average per year is 8.8. So when that goes up to 12.5, can I call you and tell you got to pay for all the repairs, and if somebody gets killed there, you're going to take care of their family? I don't think so.
Go ahead.
The crashes will increase.
One
When
of
you add more traffic, you're going to increase the number of accidents.
One of the things that causes accidents is having multiple driveway entrances, which is why most of these projects that you see in places in town, the ideal situation is to have one driveway location, just because there's that many more points for conflict in vehicular movements. And in this case, as you can see in the aerial, there's currently 3, one of which is incredibly wide, creating kind of a free-for-all scenario. So the DOT and the traffic consultant both merited the project for reducing 2 of the 3 to make just one access point. So in theory, it would reduce the accidents.
I know the DOT owns a certain amount up into Oxford Street, but it's not that far. It might be 50 feet for their right-of-way, but the rest of it belongs to the town. And when you increase traffic, like we're going to increase it for Starbucks, you're going to increase the crash ratio. It has to. It's inevitable. You can come up and talk to me, blue in your face, that it's not going to happen. Well,
But you're also reducing the points of potential traffic crashes by reducing the number of entrances. That's the common practice throughout the whole United States.
well, you have, your traffic study does Southbridge Street at Oxford Street at the I-290 ramp, and Oxford Street at site driveways. There's 0.4 a year right now with a multitude of driveways. Now you're going to bring it down to 1, which I understand why it's being done, but it's going to increase the crash. I guarantee it. I just know it's going to happen. And
Mr. Chairman, I can't argue what you wish and think, but I know that from analysis...
I can't
know from analysis that by
verify what you
reducing the
wish and
number...
think either.
By reducing the number of driveway entrances reduces...
When you increase traffic, you increase accidents, yes or no?
Not necessarily.
Really?
It depends on how you
Okay.
design it.
So I have
It depends on how it's
500,000 cars
designed.
going down the Mass Pike between Auburn and Millbury. The next year, it's down at 750. You gonna tell me the crashes aren't more because you have 250,000 more cars? Of course there's gonna be.
It all depends on the pooling and the size. It all depends on site distance. It's not just one factor. And they're all the factors are in the traffic report. Send it to your peer review and let them say what they want to say.
You can
But I
tell-
think that they're going to find that they're going to conclude with this study.
I'm done. So, like I said, you can talk to me till you're blue in the face. You're not gonna get it through to me that there won't be any more accidents, because I know there will be. I lived in this town for 46 years, 47 years this year. So I know what I've seen, I know how it built up, and I know how the accidents have increased and traffic has increased. Traffic is bad enough on Route 12 alone, all day long, let alone with an added Starbucks further up the road and a Dunkin' Donuts. But I still want to send this for a peer review for a traffic study. May I have a motion to send this to a peer review?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Glenn?
Aye.
Aye.
Rakesh?
Aye.
Myself, John Regan, is an aye. And I'd like a motion to continue this to our next meeting.
I move to
September
continue
10th.
this to the 9/10 meeting.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Glenn?
Aye.
Rakesh?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Aye.
Myself, John Regan, is an aye. I guess we'll see you in a month.
Thank you all.
Next on the discussion is end of the remote meeting option. I think we all agreed to allow Ty and Bond to do it remotely next month, so I would like a motion to postpone this decision till at least our next meeting
And what one is that?
for the remote access run.
Can we make a decision on making it mandatory starting October?
Yeah.
Maybe we can just close this topic.
First October meeting.
First October meeting?
Yeah.
I may have a motion to continue this vote until the October meeting, our first October meeting for the
I think he was
remote
making,
access.
no, he was,
Then after that, I hope we don't do it anymore.
no, I think he was making a motion that as of the October meeting, we will end remote access.
Oh, as of
As
the
of
October.
October
Vote on it
1st.
tonight, but, yeah.
Beginning,
September will be remote.
beginning October, there's no more remote access.
The only thing I fear with that is and I'm not trying to be selfish, but I am in a way, is on our behalf. Say you're out of town. Say you're out of town. We have a special permit that requires 4 votes, and we only have 3 members, and you can't join by remote. Can we make it so only,
It's all or nothing.
it's all or none?
I don't think there's that many, John, but, you know, we.
Well, there's been many times that Duarkesh was online, and we needed his vote.
You know, but unfortunately, I would never be able to access it. I would be messaging Danielle saying, oh, you know, I'm here, I'm voting, but, you
Is
know.
there a reason we're looking to end it?
Just because it was a mandate by our government because of COVID. That's when it all started.
No, I know why we started, but is there a reason we're trying to end it?
Because the sound system in here isn't conducive to online.
Technical issues aren't great, and
Yeah.
also it's not used very much anymore.
Okay, so I can have a motion that the, wait a second. What about phone call? No, nothing.
It's fully physical.
It's only physical. They haven't shifted the state laws to allow occasional or as needed or at will yet.
It's all or nothing.
Maybe that's what we do, right? If we see that there is a special permit,
We can always bring it back in,
we
right?
can bring it back for that one meeting exclusively, and then
Can you do
as a
that?
standard practice, we'll have it in person only.
That's probably a town council
Could be
question.
problematic, yeah, just, it would seem like we're
I think
doing
it's gonna
it.
be all or nothing, so I understand with the sound system, the way it is, it's not conducive to, we've had other people that we could hear, but they couldn't hear us, and then we couldn't hear them.
Could we take
Okay.
the next month, is there an opportunity to upgrade the sound, or?
Now between now and the next meeting.
That was gonna happen 4 years ago.
So
You're looking for the motion?
I'm looking for a motion that it ends by our first October meeting, which will allow it for the September meeting.
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, Glenn?
No, I think we should keep it.
Rakesh?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Jason?
I go nay.
What'd you say?
I go aye, so it's 3-2. Sorry, guys.
That's all right.
You can always bring it back if.
What's that? We can always bring it back if we get enough.
I think
complaint.
it's something that
We have that
we might
ability.
regret.
I think if, well, I'll discuss this after the fact.
I know. It's
Glenn was an A, Duarkesh was an aye, Ron was an aye, Jason was an A, I was an aye,
terrible.
Sorry, Jason,
was an A.
3-2.
3-2. Okay, next on the agenda is, could I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of 6/11/2024 as submitted?
I move to approve the minutes from 6/11/24.
May I have a second? All those in favor? Glenn?
Aye.
Rakesh?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Myself, Jim Reeves, and I. May I have another motion to approve the minutes as submitted from 7/9/2024?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Glenn?
Aye.
Aye.
Rakesh? Ron?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Myself, John Regan, aye. It is a vote. Is there any town planner update?
Not tonight.
May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Glenn?
Aye.
Aye.
Ron? Jason?
Aye.
Myself, John Regan, aye. It is a vote. The meeting is now adjourned.